We talked about movement patterns and revisiting movement patterns, finding helpful and healing development. So we're going to use breathing as a pattern to visit. We're going to visit breathing from the perspective of the first person. So we're going to experience breathing in ourselves through somatic practice. We're going to look at some anatomical models of breathing. And right now we're going to discuss just the importance of breathing and how we're going to use it as a place to practice visiting movement patterns. Breathing is a movement pattern that's happening all the time. It's probably the most common one. I mean, there's, of like the larger movements, there's a bunch of stuff happening within the cells and the organs all the time. So of the ones that we can really easy directly control and experience, breathing is happening the most. Like I can't really actively quickly control my heart rate, but I can hold my breath right now, for example. Or I can't really control the rate at which my cells are doing some sort of activity. Maybe I can, but I don't know how to become aware of it. Anyway, so breathing is happening all the time. And we have this idea of movement being stored as engrams or templates. So a way to describe that is with words. When you're talking, you're not thinking of the individual word, the individual syllable, the individual letter, the sound. You're just recalling this thing to express this thing. So movement is very much like that. We're not thinking of the individual motor neuron that needs to fire on the muscles to get them to move. It's just recalled as one overall pattern. When we revisit these patterns, we often find that they can be improved. And improvement is a pretty loose term because it's all context-based, but improved from the perspective of, does it feel better in my body? Maybe even does it use less energy to do that? Does it create less pain to move in that way? Does it lead to less structural damage? So does the integrity of the structures, the tissue structures in my body, is it more supported by doing the movement this way versus the other way? Really all that matters though is, does it feel better in the moment, and can I keep exploring it to a point where I feel, yeah, it does feel better and I like this more? Because our bodies know that. Like we already know how to live and move. We don't need theory on how to do that, like I was talking about before with the baby. We're going to practice breathing. We're going to practice using breathing as a movement pattern that we can revisit, see if it changes, just notice changes that are happening. And in the next part of this, we're going to look at some anatomical models of breathing, look inside the body a little bit. It's going to be about 15-minute video that I recorded while I was teaching an online class. And then we're going to go straight into a practice after that. That is another 15 to 20 minutes where we get to embody all of the theoretical information that we just learned. Thank you for exploring, and I'll see you soon. Okay. Here we have our model skeleton friend. He is a male skeleton, human skeleton. And we're going to look at anatomy of breathing. First is the main actors in breathing are the lungs. And I want to draw attention to just how big the lungs are. If you look here, we have our collarbones, and the lungs actually go up, not only in line with the collarbones, but above the collarbones, up into the neck, right here. Then they go all the way into the back and line the ribs here in the back. So maybe you can even sense as you breathe, the back expand a little bit. And then go all the way down. Well, actually, before we talk about them going down, they go quite deep into the middle. So let's actually remove our skeleton for a second. And we'll remove the ligaments too. They go towards each other in the middle. We'll talk about more of that here in a moment. Out to the sides, quite far, and quite far down. So in here, we have these huge structures, and they are not equal. So we can see that the left lung is a little bit smaller than the right lung because we need to make room for this big thing here in the middle, which is the heart. So that the heart comes over and takes up a little bit space of the left lung. Even though it's centered, it comes a little bit more to the left side. So we actually have a bigger lung on the right side. And the way breathing works, so the lungs themselves don't have any muscles. Like the heart has its own muscle and can pump. The lungs don't have their own muscles. The lungs actually use mostly the diaphragm to move. And you can think of the pressure of the external world. So when we were feeling ourselves and knowing where we end and where we begin, the atmospheric pressure, obviously depending on where you are in the world, mostly depending on your elevation, change is different. But the pressure inside your body needs to equalize with that. So if you had two rooms next to each other, and this room has water at this level, and this room has water at this level, air is also a fluid like water. And then we open the door, they're going to equalize like that. So as soon as the air passage is open, either from the nose or from the mouth, and there's more capacity in the lungs, so it's actually more like there's two rooms and one room is smaller, and then that room gets more space in it. And as that room gets more space in it, the pressure needs to equalize, so more water flows in. And the way that action is happening mostly is this muscle down here, the diaphragm. So I'll take a look at the diaphragm, is like an upside down, it's like an umbrella. It's an upside down C-shaped muscle. And let's actually bring our skeleton back into this a little bit. And this acts as, when it moves down, it pulls the lungs down. We don't see the lungs here, but it creates more space in the ribs, and the ribs are attached to the lungs. It's back here. There's kind of a skin, there's a fascial skin around each lung, and it's called the pleura. That pleura, there's also a pleura on the inside of the ribs here, which we can't see. They're kind of stuck to each other. So you can think of when you have two plastic bags that are wet and they kind of stick to each other, they like pull each other. There is a pressure system of lower pressure between those two fascia. So as the lungs change, or sorry, as the ribs change their position, the lungs have to also change their position. They're adhered to it. Same thing goes for the diaphragm. So the lungs are adhered to the diaphragm through that same sort of system. There is this pleura. So let's actually take a look at this pleura. Here is the parietal pleura here. So it's parietal just means the external, the one that goes around it. The Latin language speaker probably familiar with these words. And as this moves down, it brings down the lungs too. Or it creates more space. The lungs expand to fill that space. Air needs to come in through the nose or through the mouth to equalize the pressure of the outside world. So this diaphragm here is the primary muscle involved in breathing, but we also have other muscles involved in breathing. So we have, actually, let's look at the way the diaphragm connects here. So the diaphragm is also connected to the spine. So as you're breathing, we have this little bit of pooling that's happening on the lumbar spine, and actually towards the end of the thoracic spine. We have this pooling happening here. On different people, it's different how far these attachments go, but it's approximately the same. So going down to the L3. Also, as we're breathing here, and if you guys have a question anytime, you can ask it. As we look at, let's get a little animation of breathing here. As we look at breathing, we see the ribs move quite a bit. And because the ribs are attached to the spine here, the spine is also moving every time we breathe. So maybe you can sense and imagine this happening within you all the time. And these muscles, so these are some auxiliary muscles in breathing. Here's the external intercostal muscles. So you have these muscles here, and they are attaching to the upper rib down into the bottom rib. And as they contract, they pull that lower rib up, like blinds kind of when you pull them up in the window. That's kind of what's happening there. So they pull the ribs up. You also have these scalenes up here that are attaching to the first rib. And as those tighten, no, I'm looking funny when I do this. As those contract, you're also creating more space there too. So we also have some auxiliary muscles in, there's more than just those two. You also have your pec muscles. Let's see if we can bring that up here in a second, but let me show you some more depression. So now we have here the internal intercostal muscles, which are kind of the opposite. They pull the ribs down on each other. So these can help in exhalation. We can actively exhale by compressing that space faster to let more air out. And when you have heavy breathing, your heart rate's getting up and your body needs to deliver more oxygen more quickly, then these muscles can help accelerate the rate at which you're pumping oxygen into the body. So we'll look here at now, let's look at also here. Okay, so we looked at this upper area here, and inside we have the heart. Maybe we can do a little bit of exploration here, take away the parietal pleura, that outer sac there, and let's take away, and then we have a visceral pleura. So there's a sac, and then there's an outer sac. So the lung lobes are contained within that sac, and then there's that other sac that connects them to the rest of the body, the inside of the ribs, the diaphragm, and also the heart here. We're not showing the pericardium, but there's also a fascia around the heart, which does that same type of thing, which creates that adherence, but also allows for sliding and gliding. So this motion of these structures in the body, each contained within their own skin, their own fascial skin, are adhered to each other in a way, but also allowed to move past each other as breathing is going on, as you're moving position within your body. So there's lots of possibilities for movement here. And then we have different lobes of each lung, which we can think of them as all one lung, but this design helps us, if part of the lung gets damaged, the rest of the lung can function because there is some separation within the lung itself. These here, without going into it too much, it's basically how blood is oxygenated within the lungs and then transferred to the rest of the body. That's what all these things are here as part of our cardiorespiratory system. But here we just get a better look at the heart. So the heart also has a little bit of a ligament that attaches it to the spine. So it's a little bit suspended by the spine, a little bit too up here. And also is pulled down by the diaphragm too. So everything here is connected with that pressure system. And within that pressure system, there's lots of structure too. So in addition to the skeleton and the muscles that are helping us stay in our shape, the system of the pressure contained within these fascial sacs is also keep our shape. So this is the thoracic cavity where we've got kind of breathing, heart, oxygenation going on, and we have the diaphragm underneath, which then separates it from the gastrointestinal system. So here we have a layer of outer skin here, then still fascia. We have more protective layer, and then we start to get in more and more. We've got all these layers, and then we start to get in to be able to see some other organs and the GI. So we see right away under here, this big one here is the liver, right underneath the diaphragm, stomach, and then all these intestines here. So breathing is actually an important part in digestion too, because as we're breathing, we're creating motion in this part of the body, which is actually helping digestion go on. And there's different possibilities of breathing, right? We saw that we can be breathing by not moving the diaphragm that much and just expanding the lungs like that. We could also not be expanding the lungs as much in this way and just pulling down on the diaphragm. There's just different options of ways to breathe. I am going to pull up another image here real quick. This really beautiful image. Oh, it's right here. There we go. Okay. So this really beautifully shows a lot of what we were just studying together. So we see, can you guys see this motion here? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we can see the diaphragm, how as it contracts, it expands and flattens out. When it's relaxed, it comes up into this shape here. And as it expands, it's pulling the lungs. We can see the heart resting on top of the diaphragm and beating. We can see one side. Obviously, the lungs are moved on the one side there. You can see how the intestines are moving. And anytime we breathe in and the lungs push the heart together, if a trained ear were listening to that or were being monitored with a heart rate monitor system, we can actually see how that changes the heart rate because it creates more pressure. So the pumping has to change there. Okay. Let's either from sitting or standing, move around through space again, and let's say hello to the body. What does the body need now? How is it to breathe in and out? How is it to stretch? How is it to move? Do you need to think, or can you just move? Either way is good. How do you want to breathe? And do you need to shake? Do you need to stretch? Hello, body. Welcome back. Movement. How can one part of the body support another part of the body? Or does the body already feel supported? And bring awareness to the pressure of yourself on the floor, your feet, or your body and gravity here. And now we'll meet in a place where we can see each other. And we'll bring awareness to our breathing. So from whatever position we're in, just noticing how the body is changing all the time as we breathe in and out. Sensing this information compassionately. There's a dialogue happening here. How is it to listen? How is it to regard this information as valuable and important? Sense it compassionately. How is it to disregard the information? Not care. How is it to care about the information? And what do you notice in sensation here? Whatever you notice, allowing for movement from that place, even if it's subtle. Good. And now we'll bring our arms, our hands to the side of our body. They're like this. or like this, just a way to feel the ribs here. Nice, soft, sensing hands, allowing for movement. Covering a lot of surface area on the ribs, yeah. Just like the lungs, you know, the ribs extend all the way around the body here. And how is it to sense the ribs changing in shape? Just how big is this movement? With your eyes closed and sensing the hand or looking away from the hands, how much movement is happening here? And then we'll bring one hand to the front of the body and one hand to the back here. Now sensing and imagining what's under your hands here, what's between your hands here. We have the skin. Well, first we have the clothes, and we have the skin, then inner layers of the skin, and then the fascia, and then the bone. We have the sternum and the ribs here, and the spine, all moving. And we have the lungs inside their pleural sacs. We have the lungs expanding and contracting into the back, the front of the body. Just noticing the size of this movement. And sensing with compassion, openness. Just noticing how we're perceiving the body, how we're perceiving this information. Always allowing for movement, always allowing for the hands to adjust and to move in any way that feels comfortable. Aware of thoughts and emotions, welcoming thoughts and emotions, sensing those with compassion and curiosity. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And coming back to sensation. And deep in there in the middle, there's the heart. Somewhere between your hands. And it's pumping. The lungs are also pumping at a different rhythm. You have all this movement going on inside your body all the time. The spine is moving, the diaphragm is moving, the intestines are moving. Pressure is changing inside the body. So many options. And then we'll bring the place of touch lower onto the body, just underneath the ribs. And when the diaphragm moves down, all that stuff needs somewhere to go. This is why our belly expands a little bit when we breathe in. Is this all stuff you've sensed before? Is anything new? How is it to perceive with openness and friendliness? supportiveness. Come on, body, tell me, talk to me. I'm just listening. You can talk or you don't have to talk. Or maybe you ask your body some direct questions and just wait and listen for the answer. Maybe that answer comes in a form of movement. Maybe there's an emotion, maybe there's a thought. And taking a break from awareness on breathing and allowing yourself to find any movement that feels interesting and pleasant to you, observing your external environment. And we talked about different ways, different senses, so you maybe can observe your external environment through its pressure on your body, through the light coming through your eyes. You guys are already taking it one step deeper in how the external environment changes the internal experience in your body. And this breathing happening, starting from the muscle action in your belly, air traveling down the center of the body, and then expanding the two lobes. And sensing and imagining this movement of air expanding in the body, then compressing and coming out through the middle of the face, in through the face, and then expanding into the body. That you can do this in all these different positions. As you move, you are still able to breathe no matter what. Okay, we'll meet here in a place we can see each other, and bringing one hand to the shoulder here, almost like the pec in the shoulder area. I'm just sensing breathing here. And noticing what's happening under the hand, noticing what's happening in the shoulder here. Allowing for compassionate sensing and allowing for movement in any way the shoulder wants to move. Just noticing if the rest of the body wants to become part of this movement, however subtle or large this movement is, and allowing the body to move from this space. Very good. And then removing the hand and allowing the body and the shoulder to keep following this movement you've discovered. Nice and easy. Awareness of the breath moving the body all the time. And then we'll bring touch to the other shoulder. So even before we touch the other shoulder, maybe we just sense what's happening in that shoulder right now. Bring awareness, compassionate awareness to the shoulder, and bring compassionate, sensing, caring touch to the shoulder. Noticing what's happening underneath the hand. How does the shoulder perceive the hand? How does the hand perceive the shoulder? And how does the shoulder want to move? And how is it to allow for that movement? What are you noticing in the rest of your body? What are you noticing in the jaw and the hips, the spine? What are you noticing in your thoughts and feelings? And welcoming all of it, all at the same time. It's all happening at the same time. And asking your body, or just listening to your body, where it wants some support, bringing awareness there, bringing the hands there, if that's something you want to do, if that's something you can do. Allowing the hands to listen and support the body. And let's explore a little bit what it's like to breathe with our hands down by our side and to try different positions of our arms. What is it like to have the arms up above the head? To breathe in here and to explore with different positions of the arms and the chest. Have the arms out, to have the arms back and the chest up and open. Or was it to have the arms a little bit more closed and chest folded in and sensing compassionately, easily, nice, and friendly and open to the next moment. Just listening to what's here. And again, exploring what it's like to have the arms above the head, the arms attached to the shoulder, which attach to the ribs, giving us more space to take in more oxygen. And then free exploration with different positions of the arm. Maybe we're bending the body over a little bit. Maybe we're keeping the body upright. Following the movement that your body wants to do, that you want to do. Very good. And now beginning to let words and ideas back into the experience. Starting to describe, what did you experience? What's changed? Stayed the same? And we'll meet together here in a circle to share. Okay.